Good afternoon and welcome in. Listen, I am so excited. My name is Whitney Clark, and I am here with a mayoral candidate for Detroit, the city of Detroit. How are you doing, sir? Good to see you, Mr. John Barlow.
It's a pleasure seeing you as well and being in your presence. How you doing, Brother Clark?
Man, listen, it has been such a pleasure just seeing you out on the trail, man, seeing you just really, quite frankly, be yourself. I've enjoyed seeing you really sell yourself to the city. How's the campaign going?
Well, it's campaign season, and like no other city, Detroit can always throw a left or right, a haymaker, a uppercut. We good at throwing surprises, but I haven't seen anything that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
I believe that Detroiters are uh, constantly sitting back and thinking, and I believe that as they continue to think and observe, they will notice what what politics looks like as usual.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're looking for politics as usual anymore. I think they're looking for fresh, clean energy,
Yeah.
and that's what we bring every day. So for me, uh, the campaign is going great. The election season is just one that should spark a new generation of engagement
Yeah.
and a new spirit of desire to reach goals in a unified forum. So that's what we represent.
What is that thing? Tell it to me straight, man. What is that thing that separates you from the rest of the field, the rest of the people that are in the race? What is that differentiating factor?
Well, I mean, again, we're different because we bring fresh, clean energy.
Yeah.
We want to reach every family. We want to do it in a very clinical way. That means that we want to hold every hand. We want to put money in families' pockets. We want to make sure people go to work and have jobs. And we want to make sure that affordable housing becomes affordable.
Yeah.
Right now, it's unaffordable. Those who are looking for housing find it hard to get into a place where they're satisfied or they're content because there's always something looming. Either there's a issue with the landlord, or there's an issue with transportation and mobility, or there's an issue with not being able to get the right food and the right nutrition and health and wellness activities with new family spaces. So it's just a lot to deal with when you're looking at asking a family to be here in Detroit. And so what makes us different is that we see everything.
Yeah.
We don't miss anyone. We don't overlook the person standing at the bus stop, and we don't overlook the man at the boardroom. We
Yeah.
believe that they all have a place at the table, and
That's
that's what
good.
we create on a daily basis. That's what I've been doing for all my life, is fostering relationships, and that's what makes me different. I'm the master connector when it comes to putting people together, putting people in position, and bringing them to the table.
Yeah, I think that's the element that's been missing from the political space for generations here in the city. And so, in many ways, you are painting yourself as the change agent. Is that something that you are? Is that something that you're embracing? That you are the guy that's really going to right a lot of the we got structural issues that we need to be changed here, and I think a lot of it is I think that the form of our government has become it's been bloated with bureaucrats.
Yeah, I feel that I'm being nice. I'm being real nice to the voters, to the leaders, to all those involved. I could very well say a lot of damaging things based off of what I know and what I've seen and what I've even been invited to participate in. There's a lot of backdoor politics that takes place, and it's coming out even in this election cycle. So, am I the change agent? I'll say this: I was the youngest to run for city council in 2009, when there were 160 candidates, and we went ahead and elected Charles Pugh, and the council was not unified. Half of them left. We brought on some others, and I'll just say this: there's not been a council that stood up or spoke out for the people during these last 12 years of administration. And by not challenging the leader, which as your leader, as mayor, I expect to be challenged.
Yeah.
But my thing, my goal is to engage everyone as much as possible, so that they challenge and so that we can find common ground and meet everybody halfway, so that everyone stays committed to the family and the community that we're making here in Detroit again.
That's beautiful.
And so I'm definitely taking up the change agent, anti-establishment baton. If the Bridge Detroit wants to pay me as the anti-establishment for me is going against everything that's wrong in our system.
Yeah.
And everything right now in our system is built to push Detroiters away, push Detroiters out. Yeah. And it's not no man behind the curtain doing this intentionally. It's the way the system is built. Yeah. It's the way that economics and capitalism rules in society. And it's the way that our government and our election cycles are tainted by the interests of those who only have capital to invest or donate. And ultimately, they know how to invest. Sometimes you can give someone a few dollars because they can't go get no other dollars on their own. And so that's what we're witnessing here in Detroit.
Let's talk about that. And that's a word that you just dropped there, just so that you know, and not that you needed the confirmation, but you got it. But listen, so with that being said, 35 of the projects that were tracked did not meet the requirements of hiring Detroiters. So none of these projects that got the tax abatements, that got the benefits, they did not hire. And people are saying, it's going around, I know you've heard this, you got your ear to the streets and boots on the ground. You know that they're saying, it's the rumor that these corporations just pay the fee up front because they know, hey, listen, we can't find the talent. We're not going to, search in a diligent way for the talent. What are you going to do to address that?
Well, there is an issue of workforce pipelines to be matched up with the jobs that are coming online through the new businesses that are attracted. I'm glad that you asked that question because it's a very simple process that needs to be pretty much approached in a very strategic and intentional way. First of all, we have to look at the historical corporations or the traditional corporations that's been in the city. I come from downriver, and down there, Marathon has been saying for years that they're looking to bring in workers from Detroit as they continue to pollute the air in the city, as well as they continue not to be a good neighbor to all those involved in the downriver, Delray areas. Yeah. And so what I can say to that is this. We can only look at the leadership that was present when they came and how long and since they've been here. Yeah. And for them not to get this, our babies breathe that air every day. We don't know how much damage we're really incurring, mainly because we don't even do our due diligence when it comes to air control and air quality. And the reason why we don't do that is because we have not paid attention to the experts or the thought leaders that need to be present to inform us properly so that we have a baseline of truth and a source of truth. What it comes down to is this. Because of the digital era and us being overwhelmed with so many messages, we find it hard to focus on the things that really matter. And so in order to get away with the entertainment factor or the political nature of it all, you really have to look at what means the most to you and what are you committed to changing with other people. Okay. And that's where I meet people at every day. And so to really dig deep, I just truly believe that the community leadership, as well as the leadership downtown in the city hall, have to find ways of creating a unified agenda and getting everyone on one accord. Because if not, we continue to fall victim to the same drain that's pulling people out of the system and causing them to fall through the ground.
What is your unified agenda? Can you kind of go through just the general premise, and take as much time as you need. But give me the ideas of the. I love this. I love this guy. I love this guy. I love this guy. I love this guy. This guy's amazing, man. You listen. You got to be in a room with this guy. This guy owns a room. When he walks into a room, you know something's walked in the room. It's like, wait a minute. I felt like Jesus when the poor kid touched me and something left me like, man, wait. Oh, there's Jonathan Barlow. Okay. He's running for mayor. Okay, I get it. Okay, so listen. The pillars of the platform are investments, citywide and streamlined, clean and faster public transit. That's been emerging as one of the bigger issues for sure. I think it's one of the bigger issues. One-stop business centers. Okay, and that's reducing the process. Okay, I like it. Okay, jobs, year-round youth employment. Well, give me an example of year-round youth employment.
Right now, the city only has summer youth employment. Why is it not year-round? That's silly. Okay. They only got time to work in the summer.
Okay.
When they constantly get jobs and go get experience during those other seasons.
Okay. And you've said a couple of things at this point that kind of gave me that trigger feeling towards education, and I feel like that's something that we're going into, and I'll tell you why, because you're talking about the children being able to work, right, while they're in school, right? And so now we're talking about things that can have a negative impact on children in school, right, when they're working. And so then now we're talking about education. And so can we cut across the field for just a moment and give me your diagnosis of the educational, the quality of education we have in the city, and what do you think your solution is as mayor? What can you do to have some positive impact on the type of education that we have here in the city?
So a lot of our problems within community start with communication. And the issue that the communication is not flowing like it should is because the information is not being translated properly from generation to generation.
Okay.
And now that we have micro generations, it's hard for grandma to talk to grandbaby because there's probably 3 different digital platforms in between, and grandma's on Facebook, but baby is on TikTok. There's a very drastic disconnect from those different populations and audiences. And so what I try to remind people is that the way that this generation is coming online or being developed or maturing is much more faster and much more accelerated than the average youth yesterday. And we know this, but we're not acknowledging it with how we engage. So the first issue is that how can my grandmother or my mother expose me, because exposure is the number one thing that accelerates a mind and inspires a mind and allows it to dream. How can my mother expose me to something that she knows nothing about? She can't. She has to be put in a community in which exposure is paramount, and there's some other diversity within that community that she trusts and respects. And so for me, when I was in high school, I ended up going to Norway for a summer. Now, I didn't really want to do it. It wasn't my first idea to do, but when I did it and I met children from all over the world, India, wherever, I can't forget that day anymore. I can't. I mean, those days. I can't forget those moments.
Certainly.
Spending time with another family, living in a town where there's sunlight 24 hours, and the children get to drink wine before they're even 17, 18, 19. It's part of the family custom. You know what I mean? So there's a different level of exposure that I have now that I'm 40 years old than the average individual who's possibly going to go to Norway or something as an adult. You know what I mean? There's just different things. And so all I can very well say is that if we start with the exposure to touch this next generation and really get education turned around, that means that we're looking at things that we want to bring here that presents to them the future and allows them to develop properly.
Such as?
Well, let's put it here. We have to bring futuristic things. There's a museum in Dubai called the Museum of Future. We have nothing like it here. but there's ways to upgrade our current infrastructure of museums into those type of facilities. And I just would love to bring digital and new era type of resources to our DIAs or our Charles H. Wrights or our Historic Museum of Detroit. And so when you look at the arts and culture of the city, if you don't have a dedicated department within the city to deal with that, then it's hard to develop. Now, we do have Rochelle Riley in place. And so I believe that after talks with her over the last few months, I believe that she's perfect to continue that stride. But that's what we need in the city. Someone who's identified the talent that's been put in place, that is good for the city, and that can keep on pushing them even further to even open up more opportunities. Education and arts and culture do align, exposure and the rest. I don't want to not answer your question.
Okay. Because that's the thing I wanted to. Because here's the thing, I'm with you. I'm in the weeds with you, man. You know, we see each other in some of these same rooms, and I get I understand the technical phrase of it. But what I'm faced with more and more is, you know, being able to sell it to someone who wants a better school. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do about the schools in Detroit? And I mean, you're saying exposure. You're saying all these wonderful things. I'm asking, you know, how are you implementing that, and what results are you looking to see in the?
So it's real simple. We talked about year-long youth employment.
Yeah.
Right now, our fraternities, our sororities, our churches, and our local businesses are not connected to any schools. The relationships have been hindered and dissolved. Those partnerships need to be very prevalent and need to be visible. You have to see what school is connected to what church and what businesses. If I can't see that as a mayor, then that school is being left out. That profile for that school doesn't get lifted. I can't work with that school. It's real simple for me.
Yeah.
We used to have a adopt-a school program for the churches. We used to have a adopt-a school program for the businesses. I don't see that. I'm not being asked that. Nobody's coming to my church from the school. And so those relationships have to be rekindled and revived, similar to how I saw Officer Sumter at the Oakland Boulevard Community Association yesterday. The neighborhood police officers are engaging. Our chief of police, Todd Bettison, is doing a great job at structuring and putting people in better position to engage. And so there are examples of these relationships and connections that build our resources. Right. And so what I'm proposing is this. I'm talking about plugging the drain. So I'm taking the 5,000 homeless students in DPS in the first 100 days, and I'm looking at those families, and I'm asking myself, which one of those families can I get off the streets first? I need 10% of those families off the streets immediately in my first 100 days.
Okay.
Because for the last 12 years, that homeless number ain't really changed.
Yeah. Do they go to shelters? Do they go to homes?
Well, we got to find out. The fact that we don't even know and that we're not told so that we can help is the problem.
And let me point this out. That a lot of it is pushing the conversation. A lot of it is from your position, from the mayor's position. It's the vision. It's pushing the conversation, and it's bringing people together, and with the understanding that whatever we have in place doesn't work. Yeah. And we'll work together, and so I get that. I get that wholeheartedly. The idea, that we've got to figure this out, right? And we've got to have a conversation until it makes sense. You mentioned Todd Bettison, and so that put me in the mental perspective of policing and crime here in the city. Tell me a little bit more of your perspective on how we handle the crime here in the city. What is that? What is that next step in engaging the young people? I believe it's a matter of engaging, the people that are committing the crime. But tell me a little bit more of your perspective on how we can go the next mile in alleviating this feeling of crime, particularly in the summer months.
Well, I'm glad that you asked that question, because my approach and policy regarding public safety is both preventive and accountability. I'm very metric oriented. I'm very what is the goal? What is the stat? What is the number that we can look at to change things? Anytime you go into a police head precinct, you will see on the walls. You will probably see numbers, number of days since the last accident, or you will see number of days since the last thing.
Crime
It's crime
sure.
stats. I'm very big on that.
Yeah.
But I think the community needs to know that.
Yeah.
I think we need to know how good we can be. That's why I'm currently in the process of helping some individuals launch the Safe Nights One Vibe campaign.
Okay.
To make this is one of my goals.
Okay.
Regardless, I want to make Detroit the safest city ever. I'm going to change the whole narrative. I want us to shoot past the stars.
Yeah.
I want us to make Detroit the safest city ever. I don't want us just to compete for top 20, top 25 safest cities. No, we gonna be the safest. Ain't nothing gonna happen.
Yeah.
If we have it in us to come together and commit to something, I think we can achieve it. And so for me, the first thing is preventive. That means we're engaging early. We're building relationships early. That means we are giving things to our youth to do, such as jobs and activities and family spaces. We are helping out our seniors, engaging them so that they have quick access to the police department, anything that they might need. We are going after mental health differently, more strategically, making sure that we engage individuals with mental health experts rather than just enforcing whatever the law might be. And then it comes down to even cultural differences where our Latino and Hispanic communities suffer in a different way. And so just being cognizant of what everyone is experiencing and being able to wrap our arms around them is really where we need to go. And so, again, preventive and accountability through different data points is really my approach to public safety. But there are some other gaps, and I'll touch on them later, but finishing out the infrastructure for cameras on our streets, and especially in big intersections where we've had hit and run accidents, and then someone gets killed and then their family doesn't know where they are for the next 48 hours because they don't have any identification, or the person that they got hit with in a hit and run is in the hospital in critical condition. And that's something recent that I've been a part of.
They're going to say you're over policing and you're putting cameras everywhere and over surveilling people. What would your response be to that?
Yeah, and so what I will say to that is I'm not talking about cameras on the side streets. First of all, we're already over-policing ourselves. Let me be quite frank with you. If the police department wanted to call Ring right now, the company that has all y'all doorbells, they can call them and get some timestamps to make sure that they can see all the cameras in this area and run it through at artificial intelligence. Yeah. See, we got to be smarter about what technology is already available and what access is already available. That's very true. We want to let the media mislead us. One second the government has access to different corporations, the next second they don't. When public safety is involved, they have access. When national security is involved, they have access. Okay, so tell me, and you want them to have access when that's a problem.
Absolutely.
You want to be over surveilled so you can't be surveilled? No,
so tell me this, and that's a great point. So tell me this: what are you going to do to address the fact that a lot of the police officers, and I don't want to say a lot, and let me also say I support police. It is our position to bring to the forefront the complaints of the constituent, and so this isn't necessarily my personal sentiment, but it is a concern that far too many of the police in the city don't live in the city. How do you address that?
Well, that's part of the problem. When I talk about neighborhood policing, I said it was good. I didn't say it was great. Yeah. I don't think our cops walk the beat enough. But get this, do you all know how many officers we have in the city of Detroit? Do you know how many people we have?
What was it, 700?
Yeah, we got about 700,000 people, give or take, right? Out of those 700,000 people, how many do you think we have in police officers? How many police officers do you think we have? It's going to blow your mind.
8,000?
Try again, buddy.
Less?
2,500.
What?
That's what I was told. That's what I was told in the police station the other day. Now, don't take that data because I ain't went and did the real math and because I always do my research. But I'm telling you, that's what an officer told me the other day. I said, "How many officers do we have?" They said 2,500. Now maybe they were mistaken, but I'm gonna ask a few questions to my experts. How many officers?
But I'm still interested to know. I guess and I don't want to lead the witness here, but I guess what I'm asking is, what type of incentives are you willing to put in place, and to incentivize officers to live in the city? It's not that we want to push people away, and I think the point that you're trying to make is that we don't have a lot of them to be continuing to push away. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah,
so get this. Let me answer your question.
Yeah.
We only got 2,500 officers.
Mm-hmm.
I can say I want them to walk the streets. Mm-hmm. We really can't loan them to the streets like that.
Yeah.
But we can do things within the interaction points that we have in order to create the relationships and expand the bonds. Mm-hmm. And then we need to get back to the citizen patrols.
Yeah.
We need to reenact the citizen patrols because, quite honestly, we really already have through New Era, Detroit 300
mm-hmm.
and Force Detroit. We've already started to bring them back online, but we have to.
One of them just lost funding. Force Detroit.
Well, get this. I'm not even gonna get into how people losing or even getting funding because I got a whole major issue with favoritism, nepotism, and the loss of funds. I don't even want to go into that. But what I will say is ultimately when you really look at how we expand our infrastructure when it comes to public safety, if we only have 2,500 officers, we have several groups that are getting paid to help reinforce that problem solving or conflict resolution or preventive work. But then we don't have, like you said, officers being brought back into the city so that they can be a part of the community before they have to enforce or police them. Then ultimately we need to offer them the right incentives. I'm totally into offering not only police, firefighters, but teachers as well, whether you're public or charter, as well as all other service employees. I'm trying to make sure that every last employee that works in the city of Detroit, whether it is for the city or for an agency that's related to our infrastructure, you all get a chance to get an incentive for being here. Because if not, then you're going to go somewhere else, and you're not going to invest in the community or the education system. It's all intertwined, and that's why. And that's why I say they're not prepared for this.
But you know what's so discouraging? And I don't want to say discouraging because I'm not discouraged, but it's like people aren't getting into the weeds about this, man. People are just talking about surface level stuff, and I'm like, it's a structural change you gotta have here. It's big stuff that we've got to realign the city government.
Well, I'll tell you this. Everybody is okay with things being less than okay. And that's troubling because that means regardless of how much more we slip, then things will never be okay. Yeah.
And you cannot, watch this, you cannot sell that to the next generation.
They're not buying it.
No.
Get this. You couldn't sell it to my generation 20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I was coming out of high school. 20 years ago, I was being told that people are already leaving. 20 years ago, I was told that nobody wants to do anything. That's why I had to look up and say, why don't I run for city council? Yeah. Because none of my young people and none of my friends are even caring about what's going on.
Well, how committed are you to building that pipeline? Because another thing that I think this past generation has failed at utterly is training up the next generation.
Let me put it to you like this.
Okay.
I've built so many pipelines and put so many people in position that after I've done it, other people have come behind it and broken it apart and totally misused it to their own benefit.
I get that from you.
And this is the only reason I'm running.
I get that.
Because all the good work that I continue to do is ultimately counter, and I can't maintain the commitment of the community because they get distracted by a leader who has their interests they don't have their best interests at heart. They're claiming to. They're constantly saying, do this, and it will fix our problems. And it hasn't. It hasn't fixed our problems for 50 years, ever since everybody fled Detroit and went on the other side of 8 Mile. our problems have not been fixed. The closest we've even gotten to that in the last 50 years is the reset that we're at right now. The reset that we're at right now says that we can have diversity and everybody can live together. We can build downtown, uptown, northtown, midtown, north end, Palmer Park, everywhere at the same time if we all try. The recent history says that we are in a financial situation in which if we do the right things over the next 1 or 2 elections, we can start to make a bid for international activities and events like the Olympics or our Basel or anything else that can reinvigorate things that we used to have. We used to have as a community, African Americans I'm speaking to, the National Black Arts Festival. If you ask anybody where's that at, where was the National Black Arts Festival in Detroit, you know what they'll say? What? I don't know.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
It was in Atlanta.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm curious. I really want to know this now because we know that a lot of ARPA funding, a lot of the federal funds, and quite frankly, the relationship and the direct line that, existed between Mayor Mike Duggan and former President Joe Biden. Also, special shout out to Joe Biden. Get well soon, my brother. Cancer diagnosis. We wish God's health and wealth for you. But there's going to be a great loss of funds, right? So, and so from my perspective, and it is my understanding, and I obviously know you're a businessman, you know this, that funding a lot of what you are speaking of and bringing a lot of what you're speaking of to fruition is a matter of making some structural cuts in the government. So what are you looking to cut as mayor? What are some of the programs? What are some of the departments? What are some of the entities or structures that are part of that bloated system that you're going to be willing to cut so that you can bring all of these great plans to fruition?
Everybody talks about the ARPA money leaving, but nobody talks about the compliance that has to be upheld for the next year while the money is leaving. I guarantee you, if we don't do right with that compliance and finishing out our ARPA money and commitment, then ultimately we're gonna even lose more relationships with the federal government. And so that's the first thing, is making sure that we keep the people in place to continue that compliance. Outside of that, we do need to fill the gaps. However, we should have filled the gaps a long time ago with the resources and the infrastructure that we have in place. Now, I'm going to be 1,000% honest with you. The money was spent on demolition. I think we should have spent that money on rehabbing our housing infrastructure and stock a little bit more. I'm not going. Hey, what's gone is gone. You can't cry over spilled milk. But even more so, when you start to look at the homeless prevention and like some of the workforce development pipelines that might have received a little bump because of those things, it's only there are no new pipelines that I see that are getting anyone to work quicker that ARPA money did. I don't see the fruit in it. So to me, why are we crying about the money leaving if we ain't got no results? Now, what I can say to this is that it's simply one thing. I remember what Marlo Rencher and her team was doing over at Detroit Means Business. I understand what my Citizen Dashboard will do, which is an app that'll be in your phone that will be connected to the city's website that will allow you to navigate anything and everything from getting incentives for being a worker in the city to being able to navigate the city for starting a business, or to be able to go through the different organizations and agencies that help you build a business or help sustain the ability to surround yourself with resources. And that's where we need to get to. Everything is technical. Everything needs to be transparent. Everything needs to be accessible. And you need a leader and a mayor who's going to, if that website doesn't work, or if you can't get your hand held to get through that process, he's going to stop what he's doing and make sure that department responds, and you as a citizen, as a resident, gets exactly the type of service that you deserve.
Are there any cuts that you can mention? And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's a great, bold vision. But I am curious, and I just want to just pick your brain on that. If there are any areas, and I guess that is a deep, a dark question there. And again, it's not a right or wrong answer. I'm just curious because our city government it's inflated, man. Well, let me ask you this. I'll pivot and ask you this, and then we'll wrap up here in just a moment. But are you open to rescissions? Because a lot of this money has been allocated, but has not been spent. And so are you open to any type of a rescission of any money that may be left over as a result of it being potentially misappropriated.
I think the whole financial picture is skewed. On one hand, we got an extra 150 million in the bank in reserves.
500.
They said 500 million.
They said rainy day fund. They got 500 million.
No, they said 150.
No, I'm telling you, I think it's 500. Dave, you remember? Have you heard which one it is? It's how much money we have in the reserves.
You talking about the rainy day or the surplus?
Yeah. I'm thinking rainy day. He might be talking about surplus.
Yeah, I'm talking about the rainy day. That's 150 million.
Somebody said there was. I heard Mayor Mike Duggan say that there was 500 million.
The 500 million. Detroit has accumulated nearly 500 million in total reserves, which includes 348 million in the retiree protection fund. So they're saying that in the pension we got 350 and we got another 150 in reserves. Now, help me to understand this. How do we have 350 in the pension, 150 in reserves, but then we overtax Detroiters 600 million?
Yeah, right. It's all the same money. It's all the same money, brother. Listen.
Hold on. If you ain't never seen Rob Peter to pay Paul,
look at Detroit, Michigan.
If you ain't never seen it, this is your perfect example of how.
Okay.
But get this, get this. You can be mad at it, but it's already done. Right. You can be mad at it, but it's already done. And let me tell you,
but they're loading up for the next round of them, though.
Hold on. What you can't let it do is happen again.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, what I'm trying to help you and all of our residents and citizens around Detroit understand is this: with technology and with blockchain, the same technology that automotive suppliers use to track everything that's going on. I have to be able to come in and put that throughout our ecosystem in Detroit so that this does not happen again. I'm the technology candidate that can come in and ensure that transparency and accountability stays at the forefront of everything that we do so that we don't rob Peter to pay Paul and the residents find out on the back end and continue to get pushed out systematically. They can do this another 3 to 5 times and all of our legacy Detroiters will get pushed out.
You married?
And they don't understand that.
You married?
Am I married?
Yeah.
No, because I ain't got time to be married because I'm trying to help save Detroit.
Well, but the thing of it is okay. I'm curious about that, and I'm only asking because that's a political question. That's something that people want to know.
If I went to the monastery and became a monk, would people be asking me if I'm getting married?
Well, you ain't running.
If I was a Catholic and was a priest and was a father, would people ask me, "Am I about to get married?"
I think it's something that people. I'm a constituent, and
okay. Well, this is what I will say.
Okay.
Get this. I got a young man by the name of Michael Samuelis.
Okay.
He didn't know his family at the age of. He didn't know where his family was at the age of 11. He was out on the streets to the age of 17.
Mm-hmm.
I found him at the age of 17, and for the last 6 years, I've been sending him money and taking care of him. Mm-hmm. He's Haitian, but he lives in a small country called Dominican Republic, where they oppress Haitians. They not only torment them and harass them, they might kill them, but they often deport them back to Haiti because the Haiti atmosphere is so violent and so treacherous. An 11-year-old boy for 6 years has been hiding on the Dominican streets trying to hustle for money. And so I meet him at the age of 17, hear his story, and now after 6 years, I reconnected him with his family and taken care of him for the last 6 years by sending him money on a bi-weekly to monthly basis. Now get this, I don't have time to get married when I find stories like that both internationally and locally here in Detroit where I'm doing the same things. I'm a servant.
Yeah.
I'm a missionary servant that wherever I go, I'm doing ministry. So if you put me in a position of mayor, you're only getting a servant at the level that you need him at in order to continue to allow his relationships and his networks to do the right things to benefit the people.
No, and listen, 100%. Listen, you're one of those guys, man. Like this is a good thing because, man, you got it. You know you're the real deal. And I mean that. But nevertheless, I just think that's a question that people want to know. So it wasn't a curveball.
No.
It's just
I'm
some
not
people wanna know.
defensive. I'm not defensive about it at all. At all.
Yeah,
Get this.
yeah.
I'm gonna be 1,000% honest with you on the back end.
Yeah.
I wanted to get married coming out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, be married for those 30, 50 years, like our grandmas and our grandfathers that we were brought up like that.
Mm-hmm.
In this day and time, I believe that finding that right one for you is not something to be taken lightly.
Certainly.
And a lot of people's dreams have been derailed and they've crept away from them because they didn't choose the right partner.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
And so when you talk about being equally yoked, when you talk about finding a good wife and finding a good thing, make sure make sure it's a good thing.
Yeah, no,
because I'm not gonna slip up and get married because I got someone pregnant. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't mind taking care of anyone that I might have, got. If there was that issue, I'm going to take care of mine. But I don't have that problem.
Yeah, no.
So I want to take the most logical approach to making sure that I fulfill me and become the best me possible before I attach myself to anyone. And I want to make sure they're the best. They're the best them possible.
Let me ask you this: Who is the opponent? That other person. And I know this is a tricky question, but I am invested in picking your brain on this, and so I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious. Who do you think you are the best matchup against? After the primary, it's the two of you all. Who do you think you match up against, and why?
If you want to know if you want to be honest about it, me and Chantel Jenkins, the only one who ever ran a citywide race before.
Yeah.
Me and Chantel Jenkins are the only one who have ran a citywide race before.
Yeah.
But they keep on talking about Mary and Solomon. Pastor Solomon is overhyped. Mary has convinced everybody that she's the princess and the queen. Craig Todd and Durrell, they're some great guys, but they don't get the credit that they deserve. Then Rogelio and Joel and Donetta don't get no play by the media. They just get left out the conversation. I'm going to be honest with you. None of them can match up with me past the primary, and that's why the media is keeping me away from the primary as much as they possibly can. They're doing their best. Even the chamber. Even the Detroit Regional Chamber, and shout out to Todd Perkins for saying this, I believe, on the podcast. At least somebody told me you said this. But no candidate should really – he said that no candidate should really be going up to Mackinac to participate in the debate if all candidates aren't participating.
I agree with that.
Now, hold on. Get this. Not only do I agree with it, but I'm the one – I appreciate Todd for saying it, but I'm saying that for everything. I'm saying that for your race – in District 5, I'm saying that for the races that the race that I'm in, I'm saying that for every last race. The democratic process says that we listen to all those who have nominated or been nominated or met the requirements of being heard. And to be heard means that you can actually win this election based off of the process that's set forth and the rules that's set forth. Yeah. And right now, if you get the right number of write-in votes, you will be the District 5 City Council person. So why is it that they will keep you away from being heard?
Yeah.
Now, every organization, every agency can have a process. But are you telling me that your process is not flexible and subject and can be subject to change? Yeah. You're not willing to be subject to change because you feel that you're the final authority and that you're the dictator, not the the democracy upholder. Yeah. And that means that you rather, for all those who aren't letting anyone in their forums or saying that we're stuck to this process, you might as well say that you're acting like the person that y'all claim is a dictator in the White House.
Oh man.
And
now you're preaching.
And you're not. And you're a dictator.
Because let me
yourself.
tell you, my thing is this.
And that's nothing against Trump, because I go back to efficiency and back to your thing about making cuts to the system and things like that. Efficiency matters.
Yeah.
Technology creates efficiency. That doesn't mean that we get rid of jobs. That means that we cut some of our overhead and other infrastructure and resources that we might need, and that we upgrade our systems in order to make sure that everyone is doing the
government
proper
audit,
thing.
city government. Are you gonna, when you're elected mayor, are you gonna audit the government?
Bro, it's so much money that's been lost. I'll put you like this. My godfather is an auditor for school districts. We talk about it all the time, been talking about it for years. They don't want anybody to get on the books.
What do you think?
I'm gonna be one of the first ones to get on the books if I get elected. I have to look at all the books and look at what we lost. And it's not to go after anybody. It's to know what we're dealing with and what's going on.
What do you think about Dr. Vitti? I saw you mentioned the school district. What are your views on Dr. Vitti? Do you think he's doing a good job? What are your views on that? All right, on Dr. Vitti.
I think Vitti and the school board are cool, but they've been handed something that's been going on for 20, 25 years. That's just been a layered digression of service and what we owe to our youth.
Yeah.
They're doing the best that they can, but they're not doing enough for me.
Yeah.
I want to see more. I'm not satisfied with nothing less than more. If you can't give the citizens of Detroit more than what they're getting right now, there's a problem. And so I believe that we need to have a serious talk. The city took back the properties for the old schools. I think when you talk about wrapping your arms around the city, the Detroit public schools and the charter schools, you're again making sure that they have every last resource possible. And for the city not to provide them every last resource possible, and for us to act like they're in it on their own, I won't accept that. So to Dr. Vitti, who I saw and had a good talk with at the Tyrone Winfrey Hall of Fame Gala, and to Bishop Corletta, who supports other candidates in the mayoral race, and to all my good school board members, y'all know how I get down. If y'all not giving these kids the best, I'm coming down and I'm throwing that hammer, and I'll put I'll put an initiative on the ballot to say that I influence the school board more and the school system more than what I do already as mayor. And so I don't play. Everybody knows I don't play. So if we can't have that conversation, I've passed laws as a resident and put initiatives on the ballot. It's not hard. We can do it any day. I mean, come on, man.
Because here's the thing.
I'm a winner, bro.
Because here's the thing.
I don't lose.
And I respect it, and I feel that about you. Now, here's the thing. We can't bring our neighborhoods back without the better schools.
It's the only way.
And so the next mayor, it ain't. You can't go any further because the baby boomers are going to be gone.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And then we all lose.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What I'm saying is that's what I'm saying. Like we're past that place where we can just kick this up the road. Like we've got to have better schools.
Education, schools are the cornerstone of family, community, thus business. It's a trickle-down effect, or trickle-up effect. If you don't have that family in place, if you can't create the right school environment, then you're not going to attract the rest of the business districts to the area where the community is.
If you don't have good schools, you don't have families in the community that care.
Bro, listen.
And that's not to say, professionals don't care. All I'm saying is that, when you have a kid, it's the little things. It really is.
But we're overlooking what's really going on. It's the parents. If the parents don't care, or the parents don't have time to care, or the parents have not been taught or are in position to care, how can we expect the kid to get anything that they deserve?
It's the conditions of the parents.
Let me take it in a different light.
Okay.
Because the kid can't help themselves, right? Let's take it in a different light. Let's look at someone who's experienced mental health, whether it's schizophrenia, manic episodes, or whatever it might be. They don't have the full capabilities of helping themselves. So forget the parent, because that might be an adult that's bipolar, experiences schizophrenia, or any of those things.
Right.
Forget the parent. Now it's about the family. If the family is not willing to wrap their arms around that individual, then who else can help them? Can the city help them? Can police help them? Can anybody else help them? No, because the family is not willing to take up the baton because it's a subject that they don't want to talk about. Or it's a subject they don't understand, or it's something that they don't feel equipped to do. So now let's switch back over to the kid. You got a mother, single mother, really battling day to day, week to week to figure out if she gonna be able to pay ends meet. She don't know if she gonna have a job. She really ain't had no church wrap their arms around her. She wasn't raised totally properly. Probably got problems with her mama or her daddy. All these men around the city are too distracted to say, I want to help you without asking for anything back. So she can't go to no man in society. So she got a little boy who's going to help nurture that little boy. So now that little boy is becoming a mama's boy, and now he's not fully confident in himself as a man. So it's a perpetual cycle of not being able to deal with equipping that parent with the right village to support their pathway and the journey that young man or young student wants to village. Let me say this. I might have to use that line for the rest of the campaign. I can deliver the village. Get this. I saw what Zeke said. I'll read your post, Zeke. New Era Zeke. If you're looking right now, I'm talking to you. He made a post and he made a line. He said, something about stronger neighborhood. Standing on neighborhood business. I'm standing on family business, bro.
That's good.
That's what I'm doing. I'm standing on family business so that we get to where we need to get to.
You're the man for the fight. What's your website? How can people get in touch with you?
VoteBarlow.com. VoteBarlow.com. That's VOTEBARLOW, or just JohnForMayor.com. They all come to me.
We got to do this again, man. I've enjoyed this. I'm getting ready to go over here and do a podcast with Eric Brown from Detroit Black and White. He's got, I think his nephew or family member has a podcast.
He just started his new
I saw that
series last night.
Shout out to Eric, man.
I watch everybody. If you think you're going to creep up and get a podcast out here, I'm hunting y'all down.
Well, that's good.
I got about 15 under my belt during this election season.
Well, listen, man, I think this election is going to come down to the questions that the journalists ask. Why? Because people outside of Detroit don't care about this locally. And so this all comes down to the conversations that we're forcing as the journalists. And so even as a candidate in my own race, I have to put on this journalistic hat to ensure that the people that are running to run the city are being asked the important questions, as well as the questions that people want to know, such as something as trivial as, are you married? That's something people actually want to know. So anyway, I appreciate you for fielding them all, because you know better than anybody, politics is shortstop, right? So it could go left, it could go right, it could go, it could be a fly ball. But I've been impressed by your ability to take it all, man, and really keep your composure. And so let's do this again sooner than later. Jonathan Barlow, is John Barlow? What is it technically?
Technically, it's whatever they want to call me.
Yeah.
But honestly, I go by John Barlow.
Okay.
I believe the people want John Barlow.
Okay.
That's what I'm gonna give them.
That's what I got here on the screen. Mr. John Barlow, candidate for mayor of Detroit. Man, thank you so much for coming down. And again, we got to do this again. And also, shout out to my guy for coming out here and hanging out with us, man. We're going to do a segment here in just a minute, but I wanted to be respectful of his time and yours. Listen, we are doing interviews of this nature. We're getting ready, hopefully, to do all of the mayoral candidates, and what a wonderful way to kick it off. And I am invested in getting into the weeds, picking their brains, pushing back, and really just understanding, what these leaders are really made of, right? What are they really made of? And asking the questions that haven't been asked yet. And again,